Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a quick video reacting to Dr. Berry appearing on Fox News defending his decision to feed his children a carnivore diet. I knew this was going to happen at some point, but it's very interesting the way this is rolling out. So why don't we take a look?
It's taking off on social media, but not just there. The parents of carnivore kids say they've swapped traditional baby foods like pureed fruits and veggies for an all-animal-based approach. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. And one child on the carnivore diet eats bits of eggs, shredded cheese, yogurt, and pureed ground beef and chicken liver. She licks butter off a spoon and gets bone broth in her bottle. The toddler, who has 4 teeth, likes to gum ribeye and lamb bones. Some doctors are worried carnivore kids won't get enough vitamins if they cut out whole food groups. And Dr. Ken Berry is a board-certified family physician and the creator of The Proper Human Diet. So thank you so much for being here. I was reading all of this last night and this morning. So I grew up out west. My family is cattle ranchers. This sounds very similar to how I grew up, although I don't remember gnawing on any bones.
She had to say that. She had to throw that in there, that she's never gnawed on a bone. Ugh. All kids have done that.
Is this what you're suggesting, just going back to how we used to do things, or is this a whole new approach?
That's exactly right, Dana. America has a big ultra-processed junk food problem, and carnivore babies is not a new fad. This is actually the original way that humans fed their babies 100 years ago, 500 years, 5,000 years ago. The first foods for a baby when it was ready to wean off the breast was meat, was gnawing on a bone. One of the best things we did for our kids when they were teething and having that pain is we would put rib bones in the freezer and get one out, and they would gnaw all the connective tissue and meat remnants off the bone. It was delicious, and it helped soothe the teething pain. Eating meat, feeding meat to your baby, that's not a new trend. That's the oldest way that humans have always fed their babies.
Okay, one of the things I want to point out here, I'm going to put a list up of some of the benefits to carnivore kids. Okay, essential amino acids, healthy fats, you get the vitamins, you say, B12 and A, minerals, iron and zinc. And I think this is also very interesting.
You get the vitamins, you say? You say. No, that's fairly established that those vitamins are in meat. That's not up for debate. So why did she say you say?
Preserving an insulin sensitivity and setting a healthy metabolic trajectory for life. Now, this isn't without controversy because this is 2025 and everything is controversial. So let me just read to you a couple of things and have you respond. Some pediatricians are concerned. They say that the rise of animal-heavy diets for infants and toddlers concerns them and perplexes them. Some parents say they're inspired by social media stars, a handful of doctors who are raising their own carnivore babies. Rising interest in protein and concerns about ultra-processed foods are causing some people to look at carnivore-style diets. And again, they just say that they're very concerned.
Yes.
So how would you address their concerns?
I love,
are they valid?
Barry's face right here.
Well, no. Many doctors have been very concerned about many things. We remember what happened in 2020, right? Meat is the most nutrient-dense food you can feed your baby. There's a long list of nutrients, vitamins and minerals, fatty acids, amino acids that only meat provides. B12 is a great example, iodine, carnosine, carnitine, creatine. The list goes on and on and on. And we've all been kind of...
Wow. I've got to say that the way that he presents things is very impressive. I love the way he talks and how direct he is. And I also love the humor and the sarcasm. You know, we all know what happened in 2020. That's great.
Of health wash to falsely believe that you can only get lots of vitamins and minerals by eating vegetables. But when you compare the nutrition in meat to the nutrition in vegetables, the vegetables always lose. And plus, young children never like vegetables. And I think there's probably a reason for that. Every young child loves meat.
There's a perfect reason why little kids do not like vegetables. Dr. Chafee explains it. When they're like, if you look at Brussels sprouts, there's, I think, 130 different toxins in Brussels sprouts. It might even be more than that. I'm just going off of memory. But if you imagine a baby with a very clean palate, their tongue and their taste buds are what tell them something's okay to eat or not okay to eat. That's our senses are supposed to tell us, no, this is bitter, spit it out, it's bad for you, or it's it tastes good and it's okay to eat. So babies, they're like, yuck, this is gross, this is bitter, I don't want to eat it. That's perfectly reasonable if you know how the human body works, and that it is part of our senses that tell us what we can eat and what's safe to eat and what's not safe to eat. So it makes perfect sense, actually.
And they love berries and fruits. They're going to get all the vitamin C they need and all the fiber they need.
So you're good with berries and fruits.
Sure, yeah, because those are also naturally occurring things that humans have been eating for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. What's not natural is the little puffs and the little treats that big food makes and tries to then tell us and propagandize us into believing is actual human food. It's not. It's a product. It's a commodity. You should never put that junk in your kid's mouth.
Okay, Dr. Berry, let me ask you one other thing. Does it matter where you get the meat, how it's raised? Should you be looking at that?
It matters a little bit, but for people with limited means, just remember this truism. Any meat is better than no meat. There is no such thing as a proper human diet for a
truism. I love that word.
Human of any age that does not contain meat and eggs. They are essential. They're the bedrock of the human diet.
Well, this is good news for me. This is how I like to eat. Thank you so much, Dr.
Good news
Ken Berry.
for a lot of people. Yes, thank you.
We appreciate it and hope we'll have you back someday.
I think that interview was fairly balanced. I don't see it as being aggressive or like a hit piece or anything near that. The Wall Street Journal article that was done on them that came out recently too was fairly balanced. It was not a hit piece. But I can predict with, I feel, certain accuracy that what is to come, now that this is stirring around in the ether, all this carnivore kids talk, is that they are going to get more brutal, and you're going to have doctors weighing in, and you're going to have all of this fear mongering about feeding your kids meat. Now, what do I think about feeding your kids meat? I wish like hell I would have known about carnivore when my kids were little, because fiber is not an essential nutrient. In fact, I argue that it's not something that we need to be eating because we do not have a fermenter digestive system. Also, the most nutrient dense food to move to after you're an infant and you're off of, mother's milk would be meat and eggs. So that is my opinion. Now, this raises another question. So you're talking about kids who have teeth that can eat meat or pureed meat, babies that move to pureed meat, older children. But I want to go backwards a little bit and talk about infants and what we're doing in this country to infants. That is horrifying. But it's along the same veins as this. It has to do with nutrition, how to make our children healthier. So let's go backwards a little bit and talk about the earlier years, because this ties in with this. But you're never going to hear anybody talk about this much, because it's just taken as fact that what we're feeding our infants is perfectly acceptable and healthy, when it is absolutely not. So in terms of what babies are supposed to be eating, that would be breast milk. Now, there's a lot of people who get very offended and have gotten very offended at my views on what you're supposed to feed your infants. I believe the only thing you feed infants is breast milk from a human woman. That is all. The reason I believe this is because I worked for years and years in the pharmaceutical industry. I know enough about formula, how they make formula, what's in formula, and I can read. I'm a chemist, so I know what these chemicals are. So why don't we take a look? This is it's called the ingredient inspector, and they compare. I think the purpose of this site is really they compare processed foods to homemade a lot of the time. But in this case, homemade is like made by humans. So let's take a look. Like they're saying, by definition, manufactured baby formulas are never closest to homemade, since baby formulas are never created at home in the first place. Let's look at, they have different brands here. So let's take a look at some of these. Oh, Earth's Best. Oh my goodness. Why are organic glucose syrup solids the first ingredient in a formula designed for baby's first 12 months? Organic glucose syrup solids. Do I have to explain why that's nasty? I don't think so. So I'm not going to stop. Let's look. Why are corn syrup solids the number one ingredient in a formula designed for fussy babies who have crying, gas, and spit up? Because we all know, corn syrup's great for the body, right? Isn't it one of the essential? No, I'm sorry, it's not. Yeah, and you got all of this mess going on. You got, like, if it's corn syrup solids, you've got all the other stuff. I'm not even going to go through that because it hurts my brain. That's nasty. We shouldn't be feeding this to infants. Okay, ascorbic acid mixed tocopherols. Okay, tocopherols, I'm probably saying it wrong. Let's look at what this is, because this is really interesting. The term vitamin E is actually a collective description of 8 different compounds. There are 2 classes of naturally occurring vitamin E, tocopherols and tocotrienols. Sorry, all these words. Tocopherols and tocotrienols. Tocotrienols are part of the vitamin E family, but they differ from tocopherols, the more commonly known form of vitamin E, in their chemical structure. Tocotrienols have a side chain with 3 double bonds, making them unsaturated, while tocopherols have a saturated side chain. There are 4 main tocotrienol isomers: alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. So this is like a class of vitamin E, but what you don't know is that this is used as a preservative. The fact that they're mixed is not a good idea. And ascorbic acid, when you look at what this actually is, a lot of people think ascorbic acid is vitamin C. Again, it's like vitamin E is 8 different compounds. It's like a family, but there's only one that actually is beneficial for humans. Same thing when it comes to ascorbic acid or vitamin C, or what you see as being vitamin C. And you have to remember that all this garbage is labeled in a way that is legalistic, not necessarily what you think it is. It's kind of like grass-fed. If you see that and you're paying extra on steaks, what that means actually is that for a portion of a cow's life, could be 15 minutes, could be 30, I don't know. Actually, I haven't looked into it, but it's a very short period of time, and I think it's at the end of their life. They get some grass. They fed them. It's like, well, it's true. Legally, I walked over and fed them a wad of grass, so, they're grass-fed. So you're talking about legal tricks. Organic is the same thing. It's the same game. It's like, in some cases, when you use the term organic, you might actually be mean something beneficial. But in most cases, when you're talking about packaging, labeling, label claim, that type of thing, you're talking about tricks and legal maneuvers. So it doesn't mean what you think it does. But this is a shit show right here. So baby formula is a shit show. You should never put baby formula in a baby's mouth. And I'm sorry if that pisses a lot of people off. And I can't tell you how many discussions I've had with women who are like, I couldn't breastfeed and it's not possible. And it's like, if you've got boobs, they work. It might be difficult. It could hurt for some people if you don't understand how to do it. If you don't get good guidance, it's hard. And I know a lot of women who have kids, and especially if they're not healthy, they mentally can't handle it because it's a pain in the boob. I was gonna say ass, but no, pain in the boob. So it can be, but it's the only thing they should be eating. Period. Not to say that, let's say, I don't know, you didn't have them anymore or something horrible happened to you and you couldn't. Sure. This is kind of like a chemical hellhole of starvation food. Like, I would never want to eat flour ever again because it's starvation food. But if I was about to die, I would obviously, I'd probably make bread out of it and eat it. So it would make me feel like crap and everything. But again, it's like, because something's hard doesn't mean you go to this chemical nightmare to put in a baby. It's a baby. So, and I was surprised, like when I breastfed both of my kids, and they called me mommy cow. I made 80 ounces, I think. I have to remember. I think 80 ounces a day, or either twice a day or something. It was something insane. I had an entire freezer full of breast milk. But at first, when I first started doing it, I didn't really know how, and I had to learn and all that. And I worked, so I got a breast pump. And I knew from the classes I had taken that it's all supply and demand. It's all supply and demand. So if you pump and pump and pump, even if nothing comes out, if you just keep doing it, you're going to start to make a crap load of milk. And I did. I had an entire freezer full. We had to throw so much out. But they actually drank breast milk for years of their life. For 2 whole years. Like, they stopped nursing about 7 months, but they didn't drink cow's milk. They drank breast milk because I had it frozen and I constantly pumped it. You talk about saving money, and I looked like oh my God, after I had my kids, I looked like a freaking supermodel. And I'm not being an asshole here. I really did. My stomach was flat as a board after about 3 or 4 weeks. And I had boobs like out to here, of course, because I'm making all this milk, but my waist was like very small. Everything went back into place because a lot of people don't understand that if you have a baby and you do not breastfeed, your uterus does not go back into position. A lot of people have that pooch, like where their gut sticks out. I never had that problem, even when I gained weight later in life. But when I was of childbearing age and everything, like when I was having kids, and then even after, even up until I guess I was like mid 30s, late 30s or whatever. I never had a weight problem or anything, but I always had a flat stomach, and I never had this problem because all of my friends would complain about the fact that after they had kids, they had a pooch, and they hated it, and they constantly tried to get rid of it, and they couldn't. And part of the reason you have it is because your uterus is sticking out. It's like that. It's a muscle, and part of what it does is it contracts and goes back in. So, the natural way, and like when it goes back to a proper human diet and actually using the body the way it was intended, the way nature intended, has a lot of benefits. So I know this will piss a lot of people off, because anytime I've had conversations with people about this subject, they get upset. But you are not doing your babies any favor feeding them this witch's brew of garbage. It's a nightmare. I have a big problem with baby formula. You've got, for God's sakes, you got seed oils in here. You've got soy and soy lecithin. You have got, oh my God. The stuff that is in this baby form. Okay. Carrageenan is a thickening and an emulsifying agent. It's made out of seaweed. Not that, I don't even want to keep going, but you see all of these different brands. It's not like there was one who could actually make something that would be shelf stable, that would be healthy, that would mimic breast milk. It's not going to mimic breast milk. So on that note, let's take a look at what is in human milk. So if you look here, this is a La Leche League. They're like a breastfeeding advocacy group or whatever. I don't know exactly if that's right, but they give classes and help people learn to breastfeed and understand why it's important. But 1 liter of human milk has 70 grams of carbohydrate, 46 grams of fat, 13 grams of protein, 300 milligrams of calcium, 2 milligrams of iron, 480 micrograms of vitamin A, 750 calories, 0.2 milligram of thiamine, zero point 0.4 milligram of riboflavin, 40 milligrams of vitamin C, 2 milligrams of niacin. So, it's very greasy. A lot of people don't know this, but breast milk is extremely greasy. They need fat. Babies need fat. It's very important for their brain develop. And they stay in a lot of the time, I think they're mostly in a state of ketosis. Like infants are in a state of ketosis. So, it's just interesting that we as a society would give our children, our babies, that garbage and not know what we're doing and not understand how dangerous it is. It's just terrible. But as far as this whole thing with the carnivore babies thing and the hip pieces, there's no way that the mainstream is going to let this go. You're going to have people accusing carnivores of child abuse and all kind of stuff, I would imagine. Just because, in this day and age, in 2025, like, people just go off the deep end. And this is against the mainstream orthodoxy. If you do not agree with what the, mainstream orthodoxy, medical orthodoxy tells you to do, and eating healthy and being healthy is against the mainstream medical orthodoxy. It just is. Because that hurts their bottom line. The healthier you eat and the healthier you are, and the more conditions you get rid of, the less money they're going to make. And that is a fact. And a lot of people who are so naive that they believe that doctors, as a whole, as an organ, basically, as an organ of this huge establishment, that they actually want their patients to be healthy, that is just not true. Because overall, it's kind of like it's very corporeal and corporate. It's not what you think of doctors being, growing up, like the old family physician that really cared about their patients and stuff. There are people who do, but there's not a lot of that going on anymore. Everything is diagnosis codes. And it's controlled. Everything is controlled. There's no critical thinking. And if you're a doctor and you do critical think, you're probably not going to be a doctor very long. They will, give you trouble. And there's been a lot of carnivore doctors who actually have gotten a lot of heat and been threatened. So I was expecting this, but my problem with all of this is that this is, when you look at what our big problem is, this is our big problem. Look at these kids. That's criminal. Because I can tell you, as a kid I was very skinny. I never had a weight problem when I was growing up. But I was picked on, and I can tell you that any kid in my class that was morbidly obese, or, as obese as a lot of these kids are in this image, had a really rough time in school. I mean, a really rough time. Miserable existence. Just not being able to keep up, not being healthy, being picked on, being taunted. Like, why would you do that to a child? Like, that's the cruelest thing ever. And if you look at this, it's talking about a childhood obesity at record levels in U.S. and Canada. Yeah, no shit. And that was in 2015. So if you look around, all you got to do is look around. Everybody's fat and sick. Everybody's fat and sick. All of our kids are fat and sick. I wonder why that is. Well, what have they been eating? Oh, I'm sorry, cereal. So if you look at if you look at the carnivore way and you look at nutrient-dense food versus garbage, I mean, it's a no-brainer in my eyes. And we should never be feeding our children this crap. This should not go anywhere near an infant. Because this right here, you know, people look at hyper palatable, ultra processed food and they scoff and say, oh, it's garbage. You know, a lot of people agree with that. They'll say, yeah, you shouldn't be eating Doritos and Hot Pockets and all this kind of stuff and fast food and whatever. And they'll admit that, yet they won't look at this hot pile of garbage and go, oh my God, this is so much worse than we're feeding it to an infant. You know, that this is cognitive dissonance at its best. You know, that's all I can say, really. But that's my rant. I had to actually look at this. It'll be interesting to see how the additional media coverage will unfold, and I will be following this closely because this is something that is very important to me. And this kind of stuff, the mainstream about nutrition, when it comes to kids, when it comes to pushing unhealthy lifestyle on kids and artificial garbage on children, it goes right up my ass like a rocket. So I don't like it, and I will continue to follow it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I don't mind my ranting. I just have to sometimes because the world is what the world is. But if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.